Well, good afternoon and welcome to you all. Welcome to the Cumberland Building Society's 174th Annual General Meeting. It's 4 o'clock and we are quorate. The Annual General Meeting of the Cumberland Building Society is therefore open. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Society's Chair, John Hooper. I'm joined here by my fellow Executive Directors, Mark Stanger, who's the Chair of our Audit Committee, Jackie Arnold, who's the Chair of the People, Remuneration and Culture Committee, and Cameron Marr, who's the Chair of the Board Risk Committee. We're also joined at the front here today by the Society's Executive Directors. They are Des Moore, who's the CEO, and Richard Ellison, who's the Society's Chief Financial Officer, as well as Silas Hayes, who is the Society's Secretary. Following this AGM meeting, after almost 9 years on the board, I'll be stepping down as Chair. It's been a real privilege to serve you. It's also been a great pleasure to work alongside such an outstanding team, not only at a board and senior management level, but throughout the whole business. My successor will be Jackie Arnold, who's been on the Society's board since 2018. Jackie has played a prominent role in the business life of the Cumbrian region and knows the importance of the Society to the economic well-being of the area. I wish her and the Society well for what I know will be a successful future. Des will shortly provide an update on the business, following which we'll take questions from our members both here and online before moving to the official business of the meeting. For those who are attending online, you can ask a question by selecting the Q&A option along the top of your screen. You can also use this to let us know if you're having any technical difficulties. Along the top of your screen, you also have access to the documents you may need for the meeting, as well as the voting functionality and the results. Voting will not be open until we get to the official business of the meeting. Before I hand over to Des, I would like to thank you, our customers and owners, for your continued support during the year. I'd also like to thank my colleagues at the Society. Once again, they have worked tirelessly throughout the year to support the business and our customers. On that note, I'll hand over to the Society's Chief Executive, Des Moore. Thank you, Des.
Thanks, John. I guess the true test of any business is how it performs in turbulent times. And the last few years have been difficult for you, our members and customers, with rising interest rates and a cost of living crisis. And given that backdrop, I'm delighted to report another year of encouraging progress at the Society. Your Society performed well on almost every metric as we attracted new savings and grew our mortgage book and our commercial lending book. This progress is only possible through the hard work and dedication of our Cumberland colleagues who are in the room with us this afternoon and who remain focused on our purpose to create a banking experience that's kinder to people and planet. And I want to thank them for all their efforts. The year has been an eventful one, and I'd like to touch on some of the highlights through 5 lenses. First of all, performance. Mortgage lending grew to 2.6 billion, while deposits hit 2.8 billion, both record highs. Our balance sheet exceeded 3.2 billion at the year end, another record figure. And while it's true profit before tax fell to 9.6 million as the interest rate swaps that boosted profits last year unwound, our operating profit, probably a more realistic measure of performance, grew by just under 30% to 27.4 million. But we're not just here for profit and for money, we're here for purpose. And I want to talk secondly about what the customer experience and member experience has been like during the year. And I'm pleased to say as interest rates continued to climb until last August, we were quick to pass on increases to savers, but deliberately slower to raise rates for borrowers. And I'm proud that 80% of our fixed rate borrowers stuck with us when their deals ended, a retention rate comfortably above the industry average. Since the financial year end, we've been named Best Mortgage Provider for first-time buyers in the UK at the Moneyfacts Awards, which is a fitting tribute to all the efforts of our product teams. And also I'm pleased to tell you that mortgage arrears remain tiny, a product of our prudent lending policies and kinder banking philosophy. When borrowers get into difficulties, we do everything in our power to help them, and most especially, they're able to speak to a human being. In fact, you can always speak to a real person at the Cumberland, something we're particularly proud of. Our outstanding levels of customer service have been recognised throughout the industry. We retained our FIFO Platinum Service Award for the 4th year running with a score of 4.9 out of 5. And just a little bit about our people. We've strived hard as a business to improve the workplace culture, and those efforts are bearing fruit. We are committed to the Women in Finance Charter. I'm delighted to say that 50% of roles at senior executive and board level are now filled by women, up from 19% only 5 years ago. And today is a momentous day as we elect Jackie Arnold as our first female chair in the Society's 174-year history. We were recognised for the way we treat our Cumberland colleagues at the British HR Awards recently. And earlier this month, we were awarded a 3-star rating in our annual People Engagement Survey. That represents world-class levels of people engagement. And that's from a participation rate of 89%. We focus on colleague well-being. This year, the emphasis has been on mental health and neurodiversity. When people feel valued, they return that loyalty. And our goal is to create a culture of belonging where our people have the opportunity, visibility, and voice. Turning to communities, the communities we serve. Unlike large faceless banks, we remain committed to our branch network because branches are valued by you, our members. In 16 communities, we are the last institution in town to continue offering banking services. We're pressing ahead with the refurbishment of our flagship branch in English Street, Carlisle, which will be an exemplar for 21st century banking and will open in October. I'll remind you that the Cumberland's purpose is to create a banking experience that's kinder to people and the planet, and we take the planet element of that very seriously. Our aim is to be carbon neutral by 2030, and to drive this forward, I'm pleased to say we've appointed Jill Johnston as our first Chief People and Sustainability Officer. We've long donated a percentage of profit to good causes. We're now focusing our giving for maximum local impact, and indeed for the cause that is having a strong impact in our operating area, the cause of food poverty. Our Kinder Kind of Initiatives Kitchen Initiative helps tackle food poverty head-on by supporting community kitchens and food banks. And in the period of time from June 23 to March 24, that's been responsible for serving up 482,000 meals and saving 210 tonnes of food waste in this part of the world, which is tremendous. In terms of transformation and change, we continue to make progress with our transformation programme entitled New Cumberland to ensure your society is fit to face the future with robust and secure systems. This involves a substantial investment even in new technology, but be assured we're not using technology to replace people. We use it as a way to enhance our offer to members. Technology is a tool, but for us it will never replace human interaction. That's not our way. You will always be able to speak to a human at the Cumberland. Of course, we have much left to achieve on behalf of you, our members. The senior leadership team are fully committed to those aims. Finally, I'd like to pay tribute to our outgoing chair, John Hooper, and welcome Jackie as his successor. John has served the Society with distinction since 2015 and set a standard and momentum we're determined to follow. And I'm looking forward to working closely with Jackie over the coming years. It would also be remiss of me not to extend the same thanks to Eric Gunn, who has diligently served the Society as non-executive director since 2016. As we approach our 175th anniversary next year, we will be working hard to bring to life our ambitious plans to improve our products and services while maintaining our commitment to kinder banking. Thank you.
Thank you, Des, for those kind comments and also providing your update, which clearly summarises, I hope, for all of us, how the year has been for the Society. We'll now move on to questions. Don't forget that if you are online, you're able to ask a question by using the Q&A function that is along the top of the screen. We'll try and answer as many questions as we can today, particularly from people in the room and online. But if we don't have time to answer all questions, and there have been some submitted before the meeting in writing as well, then we will answer them after the meeting, and we'll put the responses on our website together with a recording of this meeting. So hopefully everybody's concerns and issues will get addressed. Any questions that are specific to any individual customer's circumstances or their relationship with the Cumberland will be best passed on to the relevant department, who can get back in touch with any individual about their personal circumstances, and we'll certainly do that. So, on that note, I open the floor to any questions people might have in the room. Silas and his colleagues from Company Secretariat are also in touch with anyone who's online who can forward questions. So, does anyone have anything that they'd like to ask us about the last year or about our intentions for the future? Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Minister. I was just wondering if you could explain to me briefly why the profits have dropped from 21 to 7 million.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
And this is the miracle of hedge accounting, which I will pass over to my colleague, the Chief Financial Officer, to explain. Thank you.
Yes, lucky me. So look, it's a good question, and I wish you weren't asking it, and I wish we didn't have to do it. But last year, we made a gain of £14 million from hedge accounting. You only make gains in the period between when a customer takes a deal and when they actually complete the deal. That's when the money's released. But once those gains have occurred, you then have to amortise them, unwind them, over the life of the mortgage, which will tend to be either 5 years or 2 years, depending on the deal. So last year we made 14 million of gains. This year we've made a debit, a loss of 7. 5.9 of that is the unwind of the 14. The balance is the volatility as rates have moved up and down during the year. So that explains the vast majority of the turnaround. It's a 21 million swing between the 2 years. The only other things I would point to is we've spent net £2.5 million more on our transformation, and we did also increase the salaries of colleagues. But it's really that derivative number. So if you look at operating profit, which strips that out, and it's really the only big number it strips out, that gives you, I think, a clearer picture.
May I have a supplementary?
Yes.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. We give 1.5% of the profits to charity. So does that mean that the profits given to charity will be dropped accordingly?
That is a very good question.
No, it doesn't. To answer that question, we set that as a minimum, and when we started this promise a number of years ago, we set that we would contribute a minimum amount. So when we started, we contributed about 100,000 a year. A fixed sum per annum. We raised that to 1.5% of net profit, subject to a minimum, and Richard will remind me what that minimum was. This year, in fact, we'll be contributing something in the order of 370,000. So the 1.5% has become a bit outdated, but we're definitely not holding ourselves or restricting ourselves to that sum.
Does that answer the questions?
That answers the question. And perhaps, may I have another supplementary?
Yes.
Bearing in mind the cost of living crisis, and I know you do an awful lot of good work for people that borrow from you, but are we not robbing Peter to pay Paul here? Because could we not use that money to help people who borrow money from the society, from the building society, and benefit the community that way instead?
That's very helpful. I think in essence at the moment we're doing both. If we reach the point where we didn't have enough money to do both, we would have to think about what the right thing to do for our members and our communities were. But at the moment, we can afford to do both, I think it's fair to say. Any other questions? Any questions from anybody?
Well, I'm not a technical expert, and I'm not into technology. I really prefer people, and you do have lovely staff in the branches. I would like to know if you intend to keep the books, because I realise that a lot of places don't want paper, but new trees create more oxygen, even though the principle is do away with everything. And in the light of all these hacks and downloads and all the rest of it, a book is quite a sort of a peace offering to people, that they know where their money is and they've got proof of their money. And so I know some building societies are taking them out, and I wouldn't like to think that you did.
Okay, thank you. Des?
I'll take that. Thank you for your question, and thank you for your nice comment about our people in our branches. They do a fantastic job. We certainly don't have any plans at the moment to do anything with past books. I always say when people ask me this question, I can't promise you that that won't be the case forever, and I don't think you'd expect me to do that. But certainly for the moment, it's not in the first round of things that we are looking to change. It's more around the things you spoke about improving our technology to serve you better. But that would never be instead of people. It will always be a process whereby you will have an option to speak to a human being. And I think the whole passbook piece is very comforting to a large element of our customer base. So we'd obviously have to take that into account. So there are no immediate plans to change anything in that regard.
Thank you. Any other questions? Silas, how are we doing online?
Yeah, we have a,
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Oh, okay. Silas, how are we doing online?
we have a few online. There's one here on the Society's auditors from Mr. Doherty from Hayton, and he is asking how long we've had the present auditors, Deloitte, and what the Society's position is on rotation of the auditors.
Mark, could I ask you as Chair of Audit to pick that one up, please?
Of course. The integrity and impartiality of our external auditors is one of the key considerations for the board, and in that respect we follow the UK Corporate Governance Code. This recommends that we should keep the same auditors for no longer than 20 years and undertake a re-tendering process after 10 years. Deloitte, who are our existing auditors, have been in post since 2015. In 2023 we undertook a re-tendering process. It was quite a rigorous process, involved quite rigorous tender documents and interviews with prospective auditors, and the result at the end of that was that we recommended the reappointment of Deloitte to continue as the Cumberland's auditors into the future. So effectively, whilst they have been in post since 2015, they were reappointed in 2023 after exhaustive tendering process.
Thank you, Mark. Silas, anything
Yeah.
else from our members online?
Yeah, there's one from Mrs. Bound from Whitehaven, and she asks if we can confirm local banking facilities will remain in the high street, unlike some other banks.
Des?
Yeah. So again, we are committed to serve our communities as we do today. So we are the last bank standing in 16 of the communities that we serve today, and one of 2 in a further 8. And it's our plan to continue operating those services for now. Like I said to the other lady in the room about passbooks, I can't say we'll have the same branch footprint forever, and we're always reviewing our branch footprint to make sure it suits our customers. But for the moment, there are no impending changes to make you aware of at this point in time.
Okay. Anything else in the room before we go back to anyone online?
Forgotten which one it was now. Oh, carbon neutral by 2030.
2030.
Estimated cost, please.
That is a very good question. Richard.
Well, I'm not Jill, so I don't have a direct answer. But I want to just clarify what we've said will be is operationally carbon neutral by 2030. So that is our operations, not our entire supply chain of others, and that's not the members that we mortgage the emissions that come from their houses. I don't think the cost will be particularly significant. So we've already halved our emissions. The first thing that we did midway through last year in that regard that was large was we moved to a fully renewable electricity tariff. Those of you who have been spotting seagulls may have spotted that they're now standing on solar panels on this building. We think that will save us in the region of £60,000 to £70,000 a year from electricity. Did they cost us a fair amount to put up? Yes, it'll probably take us 5 or so years to recover the costs from that. So we don't think it will be significant in the context of the overall operations of the Cumberland. In fact, we think energy prices are rising to such an extent that anything we can do to mitigate, it's the right thing to do. But no, we haven't fully costed it. And it's always the last 20% that's the most difficult thing. So it's probably a question you should keep asking if we're honest, and we'll get a better answer as we move into the rest of the next 5 years or so.
Thank you. Silas, anything else
Yes, there's a question from Mr. Simpkins in Kendal, and he asks about remuneration. So he asks if the long-term incentive plan is justified in this time of cost of living crisis, and he states the director's remuneration package does seem very generous.
Okay, thank you very much. Jackie, you chair the remuneration committee. Would you happen to pick that one up?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
So the board and Park, collectively we undertook a review of the executive pay arrangement over the last year, and that included considering the appropriate balance between salary or fixed pay and pay-based performance, and how we link that performance related pay to the achievement of the longer term objectives of the society. And we reflected significantly on the planned transformation programme, the period of time it was going to take us to deliver that, and our necessity to retain a core team with a core set of skills to enable us to smoothly transition to a new transformation technology piece. So on reflection, and I should say at the outset that the balance between fixed pay and performance-related pay here at the Cumberland, it's not. We're not talking bankers' bonuses as you would in London. This is a sensible link between fixed salary and any bonus. But what was missing was something that enabled us to retain those skills to help us to deliver the programme that we saw continuing over the next 3 to 5 years. So as a result, and as a result of a lot of thinking and a lot of debate at Park, we decided that introducing a new discretionary element of remuneration called the long-term incentive plan was the sensible thing for us to do. We had support from partners to enable us to do that. And effectively, that does precisely what I've just described. It helps us to ensure that we retain the skills we need to deliver successfully for you as members the transformation programme that gives us a technology set that places us very well to a successful future. We considered kind of at some great length as the senior leadership team and as Park which members of the team needed to be part of that longer term incentive plan, and we introduced that the year before or last. It hasn't paid out yet. It will pay in the next 3 years, but we are hopeful that this will enable us to deliver successfully for you moving forwards. So that's what it's all about, really. It's a tool for retention of a high-performing team, which we believe we have at the society currently, and should help us to guarantee future success of the society. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Silas, anybody else online?
Yes, there's a question from an out-of-area member, Mr. Seville from London, and he asks if the Society has any plans to demutualise He suggests that the Cumberland's retail presence is regionally concentrated, but it also seems to compete nationally as well.
Okay, he's right about that. We do, our heart is in this region, but we do compete in some of our product areas nationally. We have no plans to demutualise. There's a lot going on in the sector at the moment, as you will have seen. Nationwide has just had its acquisition of Virgin Bank, Virgin Money, approved today. And the Coventry Building Society is acquiring a bank itself as well, being the Co-op Bank in Manchester, which is, if you follow banking, is not a cooperative. It's actually owned by a collection of hedge funds due to its failure a number of years ago. So that our business model is actually proving to be the business model a lot of our competition are now aspiring to, which is, if you look at what the Cumberland does, it looks very much like a regional bank. It has current accounts, it supports businesses in the community, as well as lending money to people to buy houses. We are very comfortable with that as a business mix. We have been for a number of years, and we continue to persist with it. And we have no plans to change the structure of the society in pursuit of that. Sir, would you like, you had your hand up. Please try again.
No, it's fine. It's just a supplementary to the one about the long-term
incentive plan.
Yep. I did have a question on that, but I'm pleased that somebody raised it first. But I feel that if you're employed to do a job,
yep,
you should do it. You shouldn't need an additional incentive. Now, I appreciate what you were saying, that it's a long-term investment in yourselves. It's very nice that you should be able to invest so much in yourselves. But, you know, people that work for me, if they don't do their job, I find something else for them to do. And if they do their job, they may get a thank you and a well done, but I don't increase their wage by 30%.
Right.
Just more a comment than a question.
No, that's a very fair comment. I do see exactly where you're coming from, and having had a life in financial services, that is the way people are incentivised in financial services. I'm happy to have a chat with you afterwards about whether I think that's a good idea or not, but it is the way it works. And we want to compete here for high-quality staff across the board without putting ourselves in the way of some of the excesses for which the sector is renowned, and I think we've succeeded on that front. But I do take your comment. Yes.
Take some of that, Johnny, if you like. So, you know, I kind of have to stress that as a society, it's important that we do have the skills we need to take us forward. I understand your point completely. I've worked in several other industries that all do have longer term incentive plans, albeit generally it's share based rather than necessarily remuneration based, but it is precisely to do that we don't have rapid change on a continual basis that destabilises the company moving forwards. I do want to stress, however, you did make the point that if somebody isn't performing, then you deal with it, and the Cumberland will deal with people who do not perform. So that, you know, there's an agreed set of measures against which we would assess the performance of those individuals to kind of merit this performance-related pay. And if people aren't performing, then A, that wouldn't flow their way, and B, we would be dealing with it by support for those individuals or some other mechanism. So I do want to stress that this isn't just a given. This isn't guaranteed, it's not contractual, and we do have arrangements in place to ensure that it's delivered appropriately. But it is effectively sector-based. It's what is expected to attract the skills that you need in this area, which is why we've kind of gone down this route to secure it. And lastly, I just want to take your point. It's nice that you could invest in yourselves, but I don't think we see it that way. I think we see it as us investing in you as our members to ensure that you do have a secure future guaranteed for you moving forwards.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Silas, is there anything else you'd like to cover online?
Yeah, there's just one more that's come in from Mr. Trimble, which he was referencing the well-reported IT failures that happened around the world on Friday.
Yes.
And just asks, what backup do we have if a major IT problem causes issues such as that?
Very happily, we weren't influenced at all by Friday's events, so that was very good to hear. Des, would you like to cover that more generally?
Yeah, I'm pleased to say that we have a whole set of frameworks and protocols around our IT systems that have been much developed and enhanced over the last 3 or 4 years. The true answer, though, is they will be further enhanced by the investment that we're making in technology to have proper and even more robust systems in place to serve our customers, members, and indeed our own people over the coming years. So it's really saying that our systems are they meet the market requirements at the moment, but we want to invest heavily to make them even better and even more robust. That's what our position is.
Okay. Any other questions in the room? I could cover for anybody. Okay, thank you. And anything else online that you... Okay. Thank you very much to everyone who's submitted questions and for questions from the room. We really welcome engagement with you, our members. And we're also, this is not just a one-off, so if you have questions during the year, please do contact us. We would always be delighted to hear from you. We'll now move on to the official business of the meeting. I appreciate this is rather dry and formulaic, but it's quite tightly prescribed as to what we need to do during this piece of the meeting, so do bear with me. The official business of the meeting is set out in the notice of the meeting on page 18 of the annual review booklet. The notice of the meeting, the annual report and the accounts for the year ended the 31st of March 2024, including the auditor's report and the summary financial statements set out in the annual review booklet, have been available to members at branches of the Society since the 2nd of July 2024 and on the Society's website since the 4th of June 2024, and copies are also available at this meeting. All of these documents, for the purposes of this section, are taken as read. As previously mentioned, if you're attending the meeting online, you can access all relevant documents for today's meeting by clicking on the Documents tab at the top of your screen. It could be at the top of your screen on the left, or it could be accessed via a drop-down menu, depending on what type of device you are using. As you will already realise, I am not the person to give you advice on how to use software. Everyone should have had the opportunity to vote on the resolutions being put to this meeting, or before the meeting, or online, or by completing and returning the voting form. A vote withheld is not a vote in law and will not be counted in the calculation of the proportion of votes for and against the resolutions or candidates in the election or re-election of directors. As Chair, I hereby call for a poll to be taken on each resolution. Cumberland Building Society has appointed Civica Election Services to act as scrutineer of all the votes. Those who have not already voted in advance of the meeting, or those who wish to rescind their vote, may vote via the CES Join-In platform, clicking on the left-hand tab marked Voting, where you will see the resolutions to be voted on at this meeting. If you have any issues with voting, please use the chat bubble icon at the bottom right-hand side of the screen to contact us. The polls on all the resolutions to be voted on at today's annual meeting are now open and will close at the end of the meeting, so you can vote on the resolutions during the remainder of the meeting. The proxy votes that I've been asked to cast by members not present at the meeting today will be added to those cast today. So we now come to the resolutions. I now propose and ask Mark to second Ordinary Resolution 1 on the notice of the meeting to receive the annual report and accounts for the year ended the 31st of March 2024.
I second that resolution.
Thank you. I now propose and ask Jackie to second Ordinary Resolution 2 on the notice of the meeting to approve the report on directors' remuneration.
And I second that resolution.
Thank you. I now propose and ask Mark to second Ordinary Resolution 3 on the notice of the meeting to approve the reappointment of Deloitte LLP as auditors of the Society.
I second that resolution.
Thank you. I now propose and ask Jackie to second Ordinary Resolution 4B, C, D, E, F and G and Ordinary Resolution 5 on the notice of the meeting for the re-election of Anna Bardsby, Victoria Jane Bruce, Richard Brian Ellison, Kelly McKechnie Fairbrother, Patrick Desmond Moore and Mark John Stanger, and the election of Hamish Cameron Galbraith Marr as directors of the Society.
I second those resolutions.
Thank you. I now propose and ask Mark to second Ordinary Resolution 4A on the notice of the meeting for the re-election of Jacqueline Arnold as a director of the Society.
I second those resolutions.
Thank you. The board has recommended that you vote for all of the resolutions proposed. All resolutions require a simple majority of 50% or more to pass. As this brings us to the end of the business of the meeting, I'd like to thank you all for joining us, both in the room and online, and declare the 174th Annual General Meeting of the Cumberland Building Society closed. Voting is now closed. Full results will be posted on our website in due course when they have been confirmed and verified by the external verifier. Thank you very much again for attending, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening.